Hi, my name's Colin Jarvis and I'm the Vice President of Stealth Belt Inc. This video is a continuation of a series on rebuilding core strength, helping to prevent hernias, and more specifically for this one, to work on posture. Now, if this is your first one of the Stealth Belt videos about building core strength, I highly recommend that you go back to our channel and check out a few of the other ones first. Specifically, there's a video about rebuilding core strength in general, which is a better introductory video. It will show you some of the exercises that are safer to do if you're just getting started. And then there are also a couple videos about some tips for hernia prevention more generally and the importance of posture. This video is specifically to work on some of the exercises that will help you fix your posture and reap all of the benefits that there are to come with that. So with that, here we go. All right, so the first exercise that we're going to do is actually the same exercise that was in the first video as one of the other parts, but it's really important for fixing posture, and that's the dead bug exercise. Now, a quick refresher, with all of these exercises that deal with posture and core stability, your engagement of your transverse abdominal muscles and your pelvic floor is absolutely critical. So here's the dead bug. For this exercise, you'll want to lay down in this position with your legs at about a 45-degree angle, and make sure that when you're here, that normally your inclination is to have a little bit of space between the low back and the floor. You're going to want to engage the core so it closes that space. You shouldn't be able to fit a hand in between there. Now from this position, once your core here is engaged, you're going to lift your legs up into two 90-degree angles. You're going to put your arms directly out in front of you like so, and then you're going to alternate opposite leg, opposite arm with a slight hold. And the slower you're able to do this, the more benefit you're going to get from this activity. Now, throughout the entirety of this movement, you should make sure that there's no space forming. So when you reach one leg out and one arm up, you're going to feel your lower back want to compress and your core to want to stretch out so that that space forms. You really need to focus on using those lower abdominals, pressing the belly button in towards the spine, and making sure that there's no space there. So it should be a nice, good core workout in this space. So you'll want to do about 20 on each leg to start, and move really slowly because you're going to get more benefit. It's not a race. The next exercise that I would recommend for improving your posture and rebuilding the strength in order to do that is a modified bicycle. So I'll demonstrate, and again, this is going to start from a very similar dead bug type position, and it's going to look something like this. So you're going to have your legs straight out for this one. You want to make sure that that core is nice and engaged. There's not any space between your low back and the ground. And what you're going to do is bring one knee up towards the chest like this, and while you're doing that, this opposite leg should hover about 2 inches off the ground. So I'll move back a little bit. So it'll look like this, and I'm going to just pull the knee in towards the chest as much as I can. I'm gonna put a pretty decent amount of pull here, and you'll see that that other heel is just off the ground. And then as I release this leg, it's gonna go down, the other leg switches positions, and I'm just tapping the ground like that. As I pull this leg in, my opposite leg taps the ground, stays hovering, and then I switch. And now what this is going to do is it's going to help these muscles start to engage through a fluidity of movement, and it's going to help open up the hip flexors and make it nice and strong through the core so that you can open up and have that nice expansive posture that we all want to have. For the modified assisted bicycles, you'll want to do about 10 on each leg. As you get more proficient at doing these exercises, you can always add more. But again, to stay on my theme of make sure that you're really patient and that you go slow, you want to get through these exercises and build strength gradually over time to reduce the chances of developing a hernia, and then make sure you just do it all correctly. So this next exercise is called the woodpecker, and this is going to focus on both the strength and flexibility of your hamstrings and your posterior chain. So that goes down your whole back, glutes, and hamstrings. And this is really important for developing good posture, because if you've got really tight hamstrings, what that actually does is it causes your hip flexors to get tight, and that also makes that lower back, it's called hyperlordosis, or you get a hyperlordotic back. And if your hamstrings are really tight, what happens is this starts to happen. Your hip flexors tighten up, your hamstrings tighten up, and then you get this really big bend in the low back, and that will cause back pain. So we want to loosen up the hamstrings, make them stronger, engage the core so that you've got that pelvic tilt forward and you work on your better posture. So here's an example of the woodpecker exercise. So for this exercise, it's a standing exercise, and what you're going to want to do is have your feet about shoulder width apart. So if you've got wider shoulders than your hips, your feet should be slightly wider than your hips, should be pretty much in line with where your shoulders are. And you want your feet facing straight forward from this position. And what you're going to do is you'll start from a standing position where you've got, again, focusing on that lower abdominal muscle engagement. So you've got that nice pelvic tilt and you're nice and engaged. Your glutes should be nice and strong. And what you're going to do is bend from the hips and bend forward with a slight bend in the knees, like this. And so from a side angle, it will look like that. So I've got a little healthy bend in the knees here. My back is nice and braced. I'm not hyperextending. It's just I'm using the core to keep my rib cage expanded and away from the hips. And what you're going to do is you're just going to go like that. And that's a woodpecker. And so all of the movement in this exercise is coming from the joint in the hip. And you'll want to do about 10 to 20 of these. You should feel both a stretch and a strengthening in the hamstrings. And also just make sure you keep in mind to keep that really open, expansive posture. I've mentioned this before, but think about taking in a deep breath. And then as you release that air, you keep the chest fully expanded. So you've got this nice, big, open, expansive posture. And you're pushing the belly button in towards the spine and then pushing the butt backwards as you move. So all the movement right here, no bending in the back, like that. Now, to add on to the woodpecker variation, you'll do, like I said, 10 to 20 of those little movements. And then once you've gotten 10 to 20 of them done, you'll go into that low position, really about as far as you can go without bending your knees more than about that much, keeping your back braced. And then with your arms, extend them up as much as possible and then just hold. So you're actively pressing the belly button in towards the spine and you're holding your arms up like this. And see how long you can hold it. I would start with 10 to 20 second holds, maybe get up to 30 seconds, and then do 3 sets of that. So 3 by 10 woodpeckers, and then when you're done with the 10 woodpeckers, sit there for 20 to 30 seconds like so, and then just do that 2 to 3 times. And that is the woodpecker exercise to help strengthen and make more flexible that posterior chain. The next exercise that we're going to do in this series to help improve posture for those of us with ostomies is going to work specifically on the upper back. So one of the common problems that people with ostomies, and really a lot of people in general have, is that rounding of the upper back. So it looks like I'm exaggerating it here, but you see a lot of people who are kind of have that really rounded spine. And part of that happens particularly with those of us who have ostomies, because when you're sick, you kind of close off and you're in pain, and there's a lot of different reasons why that happens. Even just having a desk job where you're sitting all day kind of typing on a computer, that kind of naturally happens to a lot of people. So this is an exercise that's meant to address that specifically. For this exercise, you're going to need either a rope or a towel or a blanket. and you're going to hold it like this. You can adjust how far apart you hold it. The further apart you hold this towel or rope, the easier the exercise will be. As you become more flexible and stronger, you can make that grip closer together. But I'm going to start right here. And one thing to start with is, throughout this exercise, you really want to make sure that that low core, that pelvic floor, again, you've got that pelvic tilt, you're squeezing the glutes, and you're pushing the belly button in towards the spine. You've got that deep breath, chest expansive but relaxed shoulders. So you're thinking about all of those things before you even start this movement. Now, the movement itself looks like this. You're going to take the towel like this, and you're going to pull apart, not as hard as you can, but there should be some tension there. And then you're going to straighten out your arms with your body fully engaged, and you're just going to bring it up and over and back. And so again, if you're getting stuck somewhere along this process, just widen your grip and start off so you can get all the way behind you. And you'll see that as you kind of go through, especially past this point, one of the tendencies is, as you go past that, is your body will want to do that and open up the spine. You want to make sure that you've got that pelvic floor nice and engaged, so that when you bring it all the way through, you've got your core engaged, your glutes are firing, your pelvis is pushed forward, and you're bringing it all the way through like that, keeping your body in alignment and engaged throughout. And you can just do 10 ways through with that. It feels really nice on the chest. It helps open up the muscles in the chest. It opens up the muscles along the traps and in the back. It just allows for more shoulder mobility, and it will help you reduce that upper back rounding that we're trying to fix. This next exercise is designed to help fix that forward head posture. So if you have where your head's kind of leaned forward, getting that to come back up and fix that as part of the whole chain of better posture. So this is called the wall slides with head nods. I'll demonstrate that for you right now. So what you're going to want to do is just have a blank wall, and you're going to stand facing away from the wall with your feet just about 6 inches away from the wall, and you're going to want to have your back up against the wall where both the top of the back and the lower part of the back are pressed in. So in order to accomplish this, again, you're going to need to use those lower abdominal muscles that we've been talking about so much to press the belly button in towards the spine and get as much of the back up against the wall as possible. From this position, now that your feet are about 6 inches away from the wall and your back is pressed up against the wall, you're going to put your arms into this position like so. And as you lift your arms like that up above your head, keeping your whole core engaged, you're going to nod down like so. So it's up and down, up and down. And while you're doing this, you should feel the muscles in the upper part of your back right there really engaging, and that will also help your head kind of push back. You want to, when you're in that position and you're looking down, you should really see that like double chin kind of come out. It's not the most attractive exercise, but it's really effective. And you'll just want to do that 10 to 20 repetitions as part of this whole series for rebuilding the type of strength that you need to have good posture. The next exercise that we're going to be looking at is going to be for lengthening out the hip flexors. And this is really more of a stretch, but as you get more advanced, you'll be able to start adding weights to it and make this more of an exercise or a workout. But to start, it's simply just going to be a hip flexor stretch. And the reason that it's important to stretch out the hip flexors is when you've got tight hip flexors, which is that muscle that connects from the abdomen down to the leg and is helpful in driving the knee, what happens is if it's tight and it shortens, our tendency is to, that shortens your butt will go like that, and it causes that hyperlordosis in your back, and we don't want that. So in order to make it easier to sit in this position regularly, where you've got your pelvic tilt nice and balanced, you need to make sure that this is nice and extended. So from this position, you'll go out in front, and with a straight line all the way down, this leg here, you should have 90 degrees, 90 degrees. And from that point, you're really going to focus on squeezing this glute right here as tight as you can. And as you tighten that glute, pressing it forward and keeping your core engaged so the belly button is pressing in towards the spine, and you're just going to lean forward as much as possible while you're squeezing. You really want to contract that glute as you're doing this. And if you want an even deeper stretch, you can lift the arms up above your head as you do it. And so as you're flexing the glute and driving the hips forward, getting that stretch in the hip flexor, you'll want to hold this for about 5 to 10 seconds at a time, and then go back slowly and release and lean back into it. And you just rotate through that 5 to 10 times on each leg and really just stretch out that hip flexor. It's incredibly important for maintaining good posture. The next exercise that we're going to look at is another type of stretch, and on this one we're going to be stretching out the glutes, and this is called the figure 4, and then I'll walk through a couple variations of this exercise or this stretch that you can progress to as you get more and more flexible and things start to open up. But the starting position is going to be from kind of like that dead bug position. You'll be laying down, the knees at the 45-degree angle, and what you're going to do is just bring that leg up and cross it across, so it'll look like that. And you should, just by laying here, you should feel a little bit of a stretch there. And what you're going to do is you're going to thread your arms through the hole in front of you, and you're going to grab the hamstring of that bottom leg and then pull in towards you as much as possible, and you'll feel that stretch all through this lower chain on the back of your leg and your glute. And so you'll pull it forward like that. That's the figure 4 stretch. And just like the hip flexor stretch, you'll want to hold this for a few seconds at a time, let it back down, relax, go back up, pull it in, and you'll do that a few times on each leg just to get things moving. Once you've gotten comfortable with that version of the figure 4, you can actually sit upright. And one good sign to tell that you're ready for this is if you're sitting in this figure 4 like this, but your low back has to bend to do it, you're not ready. You need to go back to the laying position. But if you can sit like this, where your back is braced, your lower core is engaged, and you bring that leg in like this, using your arms behind you as support, that you can feel a more intense stretch throughout this whole portion. And from this one, you can just do the stretch in the same way. And then of course you want to balance it out on both legs. And finally, the last step in the figure 4 progression is to get into the pigeon pose, which is a yoga pose that combines both the stretch of the figure 4 and the hip flexor stretch. And that will look something like this, but I would recommend, if you're still just getting started, if it's your first few times doing these exercises, don't worry about this one. Just, again, go slow, be patient, work up to it. You may never get to this point, and that's fine. But it's just, if you do have this progression, it's something to work towards. So you're going to put the leg out in front of you. You want to make sure that your toes are pulled in towards your knees. That helps protect the knee joint. And the other leg out behind you. This glute is engaged. I'm engaging my core, pushing the belly button towards the spine, and I'm using the weight of my body to press down. And there's a really intense stretch on my glute of this leg, and I can also feel a nice hip flexor stretch. So with this one, I'm kind of getting both, and as you progress, you can even lay further and further down. But again, you want to avoid bending your back like that. You want to keep your back in that nice aligned and supported position. So for me, this is about as far as I can comfortably go. I'm still a work in progress too, so we'll get there. And finally, the last exercise that I'm going to go over for this tutorial on some of the exercises to help make your posture better is the single leg glute bridge. Now, if you've watched the other video, which I highly recommend you watch first, you'll be familiar with the glute bridge. That one looks just like this. So you'll be laying flat, 45-degree angle on the leg, belly button in towards the spine, no space between the back, and you're going to squeeze the knees together, squeeze the glutes, use the core, push through the heels, come up, keep your body nice and aligned, and that's the glute bridge. And so the single leg glute bridge, same series, but with one leg, you're going to keep that leg straight out. Your quads should stay parallel throughout the movement, and now all of the pressure is going from this glute, pushing down through the heel, engaging the core, and it will look like this. And I'll just do 5 to 10 of these on each leg, keeping it nice and stable, and it should just look like that. Again, if you're trying to do that and it's too difficult, your form isn't what it should be, take a step back, do both legs. The key to all of this, and I know I've said it a bunch, but I can't reiterate it enough, is to be patient and go slow. Because it's better to take 6 to 8 months to rebuild your core strength than try and rush back in 3, give yourself a hernia, and now you'll probably need another surgery or maybe not be able to do the things you want to do. So just keep that in mind. These things take time, and a gradual, consistent effort is always going to be better than one big explosive session. So nice and gradual, and thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't seen my other videos on core strengthening, I highly recommend you check those out. There's one that talks about the importance of posture, so that one's really relevant for this. This is how you fix it, and then that video will tell you, once you fix it, all the benefits that you'll see. And then there's other videos that talk more about the intro level core strengthening exercises that are critical to do before you do these ones. And really you should just do regularly anyway. And also check out some of our other tips videos on stealth belts. And if you're looking to get active again and you need a belt, there's nothing better than a stealth belt. They work great, and it's changed my life, and I know it can change yours too. So thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time,